Hello, welcome. Whatever social media platform you happen to be watching us from tonight, I want to say thank you for joining us. And if you find your way here over the course of the next week or next month, welcome. This is the Baseball Blue Book and Beede Baseball podcast. And each and every Thursday, we are joined by college coaches from all levels and all divisions across college baseball. I thought tonight might be a good opportunity to kind of allow high school students, there are some college student athletes and their families. I would say conservatively over the last week and a half, I've probably spoken with well over 100 coaches from all levels, and probably 3 to 4 times that amount as far as parents and student athletes. A lot of ambiguity and uncertainty when it comes to the portal. First, some housekeeping. I want to let parents and student athletes understand for the last 2.5 years, I have been providing information, access, opinions, and I've done that via Twitter Spaces and YouTube, and obviously Instagram, and here on YouTube and Twitter. And I wanted to let parents know I am going to be making our live chats with coaches that will become Q&As part of our member only. And when I say member only, on Twitter, it will be $2.99. And on YouTube, it will be $4.99. And I want to let parents know that this is something that I am choosing and opting to do at the age of 61, to do on a full-time basis. Want to try to make it affordable, want to try to make it available. And most of all, I want to give you as parents and athletes access to insight information directly from the sources. Rather than my personal opinion, we're going to talk to coaches from all across the country. So I wanted to get that out of the way. Joining me tonight, who I happen to find to be the most engaging, honest, enthusiastic, knowledgeable college baseball coach, is the head coach at Gardner Webb University, Jim Chester. And I thought Jimmy would be a wonderful resource for parents because he's very candid, he's very honest, and as a parent, he is the type of coach that I would feel very comfortable and confident having as a mentor in my son's life. So, Jimmy, thank you for taking the time on a Sunday during regional weekend to join us and share some thoughts and opinions.
No, thank you. I'm fired up to be here. Wish I was coaching right now, but this is the next best thing. So, no, I'm excited to be here, excited to share some insight, and, looking forward to it.
One of the things that I wanted parents to, and there are a lot of parents that do find their way here, Jim, after the fact over the course of the next few weeks. The transfer portal is largely mainly due in dealing with current college student athletes within the NCAA umbrella. This is not an NAIA thing. This is more of an NCAA 1, 2, and 3. It has an effect on high school athletes. And so what I wanted to do this evening was to bring some sense of calm and to allow parents to understand 2 things. One, the portal has been around for decades. This is not something new. There are a lot of changes that have gone on, specifically over the last 24 months, that have kind of skewed the portal to be more student athlete friendly. And I'm going to discuss that with Jim, with Coach Chester here in a second. But what I really want to allow parents to understand tonight is I really want your questions, if you are so inclined to ask, and I want to share this with Jim. The high school athlete, and we hear a lot about, the totem pole, the pecking order, and it has become a reality. And I want to start here, Jim. College coaches, for the most part, are going to want to first exhaust the ability and opportunities presented to them to try and fill roster spots with student athletes that I consider to have a resume, that have an understanding of time management and what it's like to be a student athlete at the collegiate level. And that's their first kind of attention to immediate business, as far as replacing any graduating seniors or athletes that are leaving to transfer. Could we start there? Could you begin to start there as far as college coaches take a look at who's in the portal, and then they begin to address needs to specifics to their program?
Yeah, I mean, and I think too, from there's a lot of, like I said, I think there's definitely good to the transfer portal. I think there's definitely some things that I hate to use the word negative, but there's some caution to some of it too, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point. But I think for college coaches, and I mean, again, I appreciate you describing me to be candid and honest and those things, and that's what I want to do. I mean, I think it's important that people understand what's going on out there. I just, for example, let's say, we needed I'm just saying an example, a right fielder or a left fielder or whatever it might be. I think as coaches, we have the pressure on us to win every year. And we have the pressure to, that we've got to put a great product on the field. And I've got a career of recruiting high school players and developing them and watching them come along and have, some rough patches as freshmen, grow as sophomores, turn into really good players as juniors, and then, all conference guys as seniors. You hug on senior day and you move on. It's kind of a thing of the past in a lot of different ways. It really has. And I think for college coaches, I think the one time, like I remember, I want to defend a little bit, like where people go, they just go to the portal. They go to the portal. Well, I think it's like a lot of things in life. I mean, we're looking for the closest to the sure thing. It's really difficult. I mean, it's really difficult to go and recruit a young man at 16, 17 years old and really know what they're going to be like at 22. I mean, it's difficult. I can go through a bunch of guys that I thought were going to turn into, just be a certain type of player and didn't. And then there's a lot where I was like, well, he might help us out, might do something. Next thing you know, he's starting shortstop and he's all conference. There's a lot of different things that go on there. So I think when you're getting somebody that's older and you're able to get somebody with a little bit of experience, you're able to, you're able to fill that spot with more certainty than you would on the other end. And again, if you've got someone else you're competing against filling in roster spots with experience and closer to the sure thing versus running out a bunch of, 17, 18-year-olds. I mean, watching these regionals, there's a bunch of grown men running around.
Well, that's really where I want to start. So I want to get parents to understand, first and foremost, I want to be completely upfront. I have no negativity to travel baseball. I think if we look around, if we take a deeper dive, you'll start to notice that American Legion is starting to come back because keeping things local for high school student athletes while being able to work within the weight room is really an integral part now for college opportunities. So let's start there first and foremost. The biggest thing I need parents to understand, the game is older. I get a lot of questions about COVID. Yes, COVID kind of culminated and gave some extra years of eligibility, but the draft, a lot of changes at the MLB level, changes within the NCAA level with regard to being able to move laterally more than one time. Teams are older, which brings into focus two things that are making travel baseball down the totem pole. One, the postgraduate or the baseball academies. There's no hiding from the fact that whether we want to call it reclassification, we want to call it postgraduate school, they're baseball academies, they're out there. And what they're doing is they're creating what used to be termed a gap year for athletes between high school and college is now being called a postgraduate with regard to baseball. So I want parents to understand, if we were talking about hierarchy, the transfer portal, the JUCO transfers who exhausted their 2 years of eligibility at the JUCO or junior college level, the postgraduate or baseball academies, and then the high school seniors. And, Jim, I want you to explain that portal is not just about athletes being told there's no room at the end. Conversely, athletes are saying, I think I might be better. I think I might have more opportunities to be recognized, to possibly play professionally. But it's a two-way street. As much as we see athletes saying, I'm decommitting, there's also athletes that are being told there's no room at the end. And that's really what the portal is all about, to give opportunity, correct?
Yeah, that's what it is. And I mean, again, there's listen, the only people that know why they're in the portal is the player and the coach. No one else knows why that is. I mean, again, sometimes the coaches do that because of roster spots or whatever it might be. There could be a wide range of things, but there's a lot of the player, feeling like they don't have the opportunity. And I think it's a tough situation for the player because, now, I mean, it's like it used to be the piece where like you go in as a freshman, maybe you play a little, you don't play at all, and you're fighting and you're clawing and you're doing the things that you need to do to grow and fight that adversity to break a lineup and do those type of things. But there's a lot now where it's, all right, well, I'm not playing, I'm going to transfer. And listen, the liberty's there to do it. There's free will to just, you can do it. I mean, you can't blame the players. I mean, they're allowed to, and you can transfer as many times as you want now. You can go as many times as you want.
And that just got passed recently. And there's also, for parents and student athletes, and Jim, I don't know if you want to discuss this or not, the NCAA also just recently granted student athletes an extra year of eligibility if they graduated between 2019 and 2020 during that cusp of the COVID year. Theoretically, those athletes are now in their mid-20s or thereabouts. And so there are, in some cases, some athletes. But, for parents that are watching this now, the question becomes, where does this leave the high school student athlete? And I think that was the crux of why I wanted to have this discussion. The high school athlete will always be what I call the mass feeder into the college athletic world.
Right.
The thing to understand is that the sport of baseball is now being pushed to the same level of what I call visibility as the football, the basketball, and now the baseball. We have access to it as we looked at ESPN and all the streaming services, and it's great. But college baseball is also benefited by that major league, baseball changes with regard to the draft. And if you're a parent and you're paying attention, MLB Network is now doing a college tour segment on their MLB Today or MLB Network. And they're highlighting programs like LSU and Texas A&M. And that's not just by circumstance. There is going to be a thread between MLB and NCAA as far as the development of young men and their kind of course towards professional baseball. Make no mistake about it. MLB Network is not showing up on Jay Johnson's doorstep to do a tour for the, just for the sake of having content. They're doing it, to allow parents to see what college is really all about. Now, Gardner Webb, I know, has gone way above and beyond over the last couple of years with regard to facilities, but it's kind of the norm now, right, Jim? I mean, you have to have those off-season facilities to train and develop, and that's where the high school student athlete is going to spend the majority of their time, is that strength, that skill set development, those additional, what I call quality repetitions under the supervision and guidance of a college staff.
Yeah, no, I mean, you hit a bunch of different things there. That was awesome. And, with the facilities, yeah, I mean, it's just so important. I mean, it's now, I mean, it's a grown man's game. And like I said, you've got to be physical and you've got to be older and you've got to, there's a road to go down to get to that point. But, listen, Major League Baseball and minor league, affiliated baseball, it's no different than what we're doing with the transfer portal, meaning in so many
Right.
ways, like there's, you have just talking to a lot of scouts over the last couple of years as this thing has all shifted, and now we're down to 20 rounds. Okay. When I was in high school, I think there was north of 50 rounds, and then
Right.
it went to 50, and then it was at 40, and then now it's at 20. Okay, now you just look at the draft. I mean, I can just go back. I think it was 2017 or 16. I got to look it up. And I was in arguably one of the top, if not the top D2 conference in the country in Pennsylvania. And there was a good 12 guys drafted that year, like out of our league. And then there was literally 4 top 10 rounders, and I coached one of them. And last year, that league only had 1 guy drafted. I mean, it's just, so what I'm trying to say is with some of this stuff, like the LSU, like, more kids are trying to fight to get to that level. And if you're a team and you've got 20 picks, I mean, are you taking the flyer on and it's no slight like to the Division III kid, like, or are you going to take, you know what I mean, the guy hitting 310 at Arkansas or whatever it might be, like, because he's that level of baseball is just getting back. I mean, we watched it all weekend. I mean, it's unbelievable. The arms, the physicality, the guys, that are able to, like, the approaches, the at bats, the home run. I mean, it's unbelievable. And, like, you're just going to see, like, it's closer to the sure thing. Like when you take an SEC player, you know what I mean? And maybe you don't know exactly where the ceiling is, but like I said, when you got 20 picks and you got someone to answer to, you got to go with the closest thing to a sure bet. You know what I mean? And that's why, you see some of the decline in high school guys getting drafted in different things. And again, now high school guys got more leverage than they ever did. I mean, with NIL and like going, I mean, it's unbelievable with what's going on. So,
and I think parents need to, I get a lot of questions when you see me put my glasses on, Jimmy. I'm trying to read the screen, and and the thing is that parents want to kind of understand, okay, high school athletes, and so I want to go back and I want to reemphasize something I just said, and that is, if we looked at the narrative, say 10 years ago, or even let's go back to 2005 to 2016 or 17. The narrative was the high school athlete would go play travel baseball. The travel baseball would kind of put you into an exposure platform, for lack of a better term, and coaches would grade or identify players with skill sets and projectability, and they could dream on them a little bit. And now what has happened, because the game is older, and we can blame it on COVID, we can blame it on rule changes. The fact are, the game is older. The average age of Division I baseball is 22. We have a few guys that are a little older. We have a few guys that are in that 2021 window. And so the question here is, with regard to reclassification, are we doing the student athletes a disservice? I have a strong opinion on that with regard to if we're reclassifying as a parent. Now, I'm talking to you now as a dad. My son graduated high school at 17. He was a freshman in the SEC as a recent 18-year-old. He just turned 18-year-old, and he got his teeth kicked in because the Stephen Piscottis of the world, they were big physical men. And what we have to understand is the reality. The reality of college baseball is those student athletes, they impact the baseball. They impact it with the barrel of a bat. They impact it with their arms, their gloves. They dominate the baseball, and they're not tippy-toeing. They are not kind of fluctuating. They are dominating the sport. And Jim, I would like you to get parents to understand, when I say that, they think, well, my son hit 400 in high school. They are dominating a baseball with the barrel of a bat. So at 93 to 95, that barrel is going through a zone and impacting a baseball. When they feel the baseball, they are not running 5 steps and unleashing. They have that physicality, that arm strength. They are dominating the baseball on both sides, defensively and offensively. Can you just explain to a parent the difference between a 22-year-old and say an 18 or 19-year-old?
Yeah, I mean, it's fair. It's actually fairly simple. I mean, it's obviously the physicality and Mother Nature and in the what's done in the weight room. And I think that even talking about like the bat, like, right, being able to handle a 93-mile-an-hour fastball instead of it, and making, being able to get and explode through it versus getting the bat blown out of your hands. I mean, there's a fine line. And then, but with it too, the physicality is the durability too. I mean, we're looking for players that can. These seasons are long. I mean, they're grinds.
Can you explain that? Because it's the fall component, and then it leads right away to the what I call spring in January. But parents don't quite understand your season is essentially 11 out of 12 months. If we take the summer and the fall and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, again, yeah, I mean, it's literally. I mean, you go start in the middle to end of August, and you're all the way through Thanksgiving, right? And then you're off December, and you come back the second week of January, and you're on until the end. And I mean, like, you're still playing to today. You know what I mean? And longer if you've got a good club. But it's I think parents understand. Like I just think that it's a lot of times. We have visits, we do different things or whatever, and I'll get a lot like, well, Johnny's the hardest worker, and he's done this and he's done that, and I go, he's about to go through something he's never gone through.
Right.
Because he goes and he lifts every day, and he goes and hits on his own or hits with some buddies or even dad, whatever. And I'm not saying that's not work and getting something in, but the next thing you know, I mean, you're getting in. It's a whole different world when you're going through with a collegiate strength coach, and you're competing against 39 other men around you that some have been doing it a lot longer than you have.
And it can be intimidating for an 18 and 19-year-old to be in that gym.
No doubt, very. And then get, and then get into the locker room. You know what I mean? And just handling that piece, being around other guys that have been in it for 4 or 5, heck, 6 years sometimes, as far as things go. And it's just, and then trying to juggle that with your academic work and doing those things. I mean, listen, I tell freshmen all the time, right? And it's so funny because then we revisit it. I do a lot in the spring. I'll go like, listen, you're gonna have a great experience. Like it's gonna be great, but it's not gonna be right away. Like, this is not gonna be. You're gonna break down. You're gonna hit a low. You're gonna hit a time where, like, you're gonna go, is this really worth it? You're gonna go through it, and when you do, I need you to come talk to me.
And I can assure you that happens. For instance, we're talking about high school All-Americans that will be in the portal. We're talking about NCAA Division III that'll end up playing Division I. We're talking Division I that will end up playing Division III. And here's where I wanted to have this dialogue, specifically with Coach Chester, because he's been on this Division II. He knows athletes that were Division III that are now MLB players. Let's talk about education, because when we are talking about high school athletes, and then we start to talk about college baseball, we're talking primarily about education. And the baseball piece is a part of the experience. And for 95%, the number is actually higher, of college players that play college athletics, they're not going to play professionally, or at least they're not going to play to the point where they're earning a substantial living to be able to provide for their family. It's extremely challenging, trust me, when you start to take a deeper dive into minor league salaries. So let's visit something real quick here, digress real quick. When you ask a student athlete to reclassify, you must identify the purpose. If the purpose is purely athletic driven, and you think you're giving your student athlete a step up or a step ahead, that is not accurate, because the average age, as we just talked about, is 22. So even if you're a 19-year-older and you do a post-grad year and you go to college at 20, it's still going to be a level of difficulty. Here is the main topic. From the ages of 16 to 20, ask yourself, what are you as a family, or what are you as a student athlete truly doing with those 4 years? How are you preparing to be a college student athlete? Running around trying to play a lot of games. I'm not criticizing travel baseball. I'm trying to say Where are you putting time forth for your studies, for your nutrition, for your sleep, for your strength training, for your preparation with regard to skill set repetitions? Those things are what these baseball academies or baseball postgraduate schools that are popping up everywhere, the IMG model, those types of things. That's what they're trying to get parents to understand. Come to our facilities. We have a trainer. We have all of this. That's what is the bait at the end of the hook, so to speak.
Yeah, they're going to speed it up. They're selling that they're going to speed up the development, speed up the process, and
How can you?
speed you up to where it's going on.
Right. Is that possible in your opinion? Do you think it's possible to speed up development?
Development? I think it's tough, man. I just think it's like, listen, at the end of the day, it all comes down to the player.
Right.
Okay? And I say this with some conviction, and I say this with some passion when I tell you this, because this is the new thing. Okay. I want player development. I want to be developed. Right. Like, that's the thing. Okay. And again, whether you're 16 through 20, and honestly, when we'll hear this, and this isn't just Gardner Webb. This is going on. This is a national thing that goes on. Is the young men will say, I want to be developed, or I'm not getting developed, or whatever it might be. Parents and players that are watching this, okay, listen to me. Development is a two-way street. Okay.
Bingo.
It is a two-way street. And I don't think sometimes it's understood that, I know that there's a lot of probably players and parents watching this where their son has a hitting coach, right? A pitching coach, a trainer, an infield coach, okay? Like multiple people that are helping him do what he needs to do. The NCAA has done a nice job here of letting us have another assistant, you know what I mean, as far as a paid assistant, listen, most places don't even have that. It's still the volunteer. Let's be honest. But and staffs have been able to be increased to do some of these type of things and develop and that type of stuff. But if the player doesn't want to be developed or doesn't have, what I call, that internal motivation to want to work and be blue collar on a daily basis, they're not going to develop. And listen, coaches, we have a pitching coach, right? He can't give 22 individual lessons every single day. It's impossible with what we have to do with our jobs. It's impossible. So there's got to be it just can't be one-way street that the coach didn't develop me.
Right.
There has to be some accountability on why you didn't develop.
Right.
And
I think what we've lost sight of, it used to be when I say this, the high school student athlete, pick any sport, football, basketball, what have you. There would be a conditioning component and there would be a skill set component. And now, in the way the world works today, what we're looking for is someone with all the answers. And I get asked this quite a bit. Hey, Walt, can you help me? I may have some answers, but when I truly need to get answers for parents with specific questions, I reach out to Jim Chester. I reach out to Tim Corbin. I reach out to John Savage. I reach out to these coaches because they're going to give me the actual answer that I can, forward to a parent. And so what I want parents to understand is these college coaches, they're no different than major league, minor league managers. They have to put a product. They have to make sure that those athletes that are under their care are fully prepared to compete and represent their institution. The bottom line is Coach Chester, it's a business. He is compensated by a university to put a quality team skill set, character, so that they are a great representation of a college or a university and not just a baseball player. And so what I want parents to understand, there are going to be changes. We talk about the portal. So tomorrow or June 3rd, tomorrow and August 1st, parents, what's the difference? Okay. Tomorrow, college athletes are that have entered the portal officially through their athletic department. And I would love for you, Jim, to take us from an exit meeting to the actual process. And those athletes, once they are granted, I want parents to understand one thing. It is not all popcorn and lollipops and everybody getting a bouquet of flowers. And we see on Twitter, thank you for my 2 years at this university, but I'm decommitting, I'm leaving, and I'm going here. And we all think of greener pastures and, Mary Poppins and everybody floating into a brand new school and being a superstar. The realities are, not all athletes go from D1 to D1. Not all athletes actually find a home. That's something. But Jim, if you could take parents through the exit meeting, the reality of the exit meeting, and then that athlete saying either I'd like to transfer, or maybe you saying, you know what, I don't foresee a future here for you that you may want to consider going into the portal. However you would like to discuss that topic.
Yeah, well, first off, thank you for putting me in the same sentence as Tim Corbin and John Savage.
Hey, listen, I know you're a quality coach. I mean, I'm not the only one either. So that's why I wanted to have you on.
That's flattering. So thank you. I appreciate it. No, listen, I think everybody handles the exit meetings differently. You know what I mean? I think they go differently too, based off how your seasons are. It's tough. I know the one thing for me that I try to always do is, I've got a lot of data with me, and I'm just brutally honest with the players. And meaning I just tell them the truth.
Right.
Just tell them the truth. Listen, this is what we think. This is what we see. And these are your numbers. And this is what warrants whatever it is. I mean, and that's not just bad. I mean, we have guys where we increase scholarship. We have guys where, you know what I mean, that, get increased because of their performance, all kinds of different things. But that's kind of the way it works. And you know what? Listen. This portal, in my eyes, right? There's three things that happen with it. Okay. I think this is really important to know. Okay. A lot of guys go into the portal, and I don't know I've seen some statistics. I don't know how true they are or not, but they go in and they never play again.
Bingo.
They never play again. And I'm going to tell you a quick story. And again, when I say this with all due respect. And it's coming from somebody who I was a Division III baseball player. I was one, and I'm proud of it, so proud of it. And then I coached at the level for 7 years. Okay, 7 of the best years of my life. I had a young man email me about 2 weeks ago from a Division III school. Okay, and I'm very familiar with the landscape. And there's really, really good baseball, really good players. So, we follow up on everything, right? And I looked it up. He was a sophomore at the school, okay? And he hit sub 250 and just didn't quite have some numbers, made some few starts, didn't play every game, whatever. Just he's part of going through the process. And I looked at it and I thought about it for a second, and I saw a little bit of myself. That's kind of what I was like as a sophomore, you know what I mean? And then, moved on, played more and got better and did some things as I got in my career. I emailed the young man back and I said, with all due respect, I was like, if I were you, I'd stay where you're at, work really hard this summer, and go back to fight to play for every single day and try to hit north of 300 and make all conference. So there's a good chance a young man like that might not, I'm not saying for sure, but there's a chance that he doesn't play.
So what I want to ask you real quick, because you touched on this before we started tonight, and I just saw a question come across. I don't want to call it tampering, but are you constantly recruiting your players year in and year out? If Gardner Webb Friday starter, the portal begins long before June 3rd. That's really the point I think parents don't understand. Can you kind of get parents to understand, this whole thing begins way before June 3rd?